She chose to remember him. English Listening Story, Listening B2. Episode 1. The Day He Didn't Look Away. They told her forgetting him would save her life, but remembering him would cost everything. Esme had learned how to be invisible. She walked the same streets every day, helped at the small community library, and spoke only when necessary. People knew her as kind or quiet, but no one truly saw her, and that was how she survived, calmly, carefully, without hope. Until the day Emmett arrived. He came to the library on a rainy afternoon, shaking water from his coat, holding a notebook close to his chest. When he looked up, his eyes met Esme's, and he didn't look away. Not quickly, not politely. He looked as if he had been waiting. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Do you believe places remember people?" Esme hesitated. No one had ever asked her something like that before. She nodded slowly. "I think they do," she answered. "Some places remember too much." Emmett smiled, but there was sadness behind it. From that moment he returned every day, sometimes to read, sometimes to write, sometimes just to sit in silence near her desk. They spoke little, but something grew in the quiet, a strange warmth, steady and patient. Esme began to wait for the sound of his footsteps. One evening, as the library lights dimmed, Emmett leaned closer and whispered, "Esme, what would you do if someone came back for you after many years?" Her breath caught. Before she could answer, the light suddenly went out, and in the darkness, Emmett was no longer beside her. Episode 2. A Promise He Never Spoke. The lights returned seconds later, but Emmett was gone. Esme stood frozen, her heart racing. She searched between the shelves, near the door, outside in the rain. Nothing. It was as if he had vanished into the air. That night, she couldn't sleep. His question repeated in her mind again and again. The next day he didn't come, nor the day after. A week passed, and the chair where Emmett used to sit remained empty. Esme told herself it shouldn't hurt. They were almost strangers. And yet, her chest felt heavy, like something unfinished had been left behind. On the 8th day she found the notebook. It was hidden behind a row of old books. Inside were pages filled with thoughts, sketches, and dates, all leading to one name written again and again. Esme. Her hands trembled as she turned the last page. There was a message, written carefully, as if every word mattered. "If you are reading this, it means I failed to stay away. I promised to protect you, even from me. But loving you has always been my greatest weakness." Esme's vision blurred. Suddenly, a voice spoke behind her, low and urgent. "You were never meant to find that." She turned. Emmett was standing there, pale, shaken, and looking at her as if seeing her meant both relief and fear. And then he said the words that changed everything. "Esme, we have very little time." Episode 3. The Truth He Was Hiding. Esme stared at Emmett, unable to speak. His face was familiar, yet now she saw something new in his eyes. Fear. Not for himself. For her. "What do you mean, little time?" she finally asked. Emmett looked around, then gently took the notebook from her hands. He did not touch her. He never crossed that line, but the space between them felt charged, alive. "I was told to leave this town years ago," he said quietly. "I promised I would never return." "Who told you?" Esme whispered. He hesitated. "People who believe some connections are dangerous." Esme felt her heart tighten. "And me?" Emmett nodded slowly. "You especially." He opened the notebook and showed her a page filled with dates and short sentences. "Every time our lives crossed, something went wrong," he said. "Not because of you, because of what we become together." Esme shook her head. "That doesn't make sense." "It will," he replied softly. "If I stay too long, you will remember everything. And once you do, you'll be forced to choose." "Choose what?" Emmett finally looked directly at her. His voice almost broke. "Between the life that keeps you safe and the love that will cost us both everything." Before Esme could answer, the library door slammed open. A man in a dark coat stood there, watching them. And Emmett whispered, "They found me." Episode 4. When silence becomes a decision. The man did not move. He simply watched. Esme felt a strange calm settle over her, as if her heart had already chosen something her mind was still afraid to name. She stepped slightly in front of Emmett without thinking. "Who are you?" she asked. The man smiled faintly. Someone reminding him of his promise. Emmett's voice was tense. "I told you I needed more time." "You were given enough," the man replied. "You always stay too long." The silence between them felt heavy. Then the man turned to Esme. "You will forget him," he said gently. "That is mercy." Esme's chest tightened. "Forget Emmett?" The thought hurt more than she expected. She looked at Emmett. He shook his head slowly, his eyes begging her not to speak. But Esme spoke anyway. "If I forget him," she said, "will I still be myself?" The man did not answer. Emmett stepped forward. "If she remembers, she will suffer." Esme turned to him. "And if I forget, you will." Their eyes locked. No touch. No words of love. Just truth. The man sighed. "So it begins." The lights flickered again, and suddenly memories Esme never knew she had began to return. Episode 5. The memory she never lost. The library faded. Not disappeared, transformed. Esme felt herself standing somewhere else, somewhere older. The air was warmer. The walls were made of stone. She knew this place, even though she had never seen it before. Emmett stood across from her, younger with the same eyes, steady, protective. "You remembered," he said quietly. "I never forgot," Esme replied, surprised by her own voice. They only covered it. Around them, voices echoed. Warnings, rules, fear disguised as wisdom. "She must not love," one voice said. "He must not return," said another. Esme looked at Emmett. "They were afraid of us." He nodded. "Because when we find each other, we don't break. We change." The memory shifted again. Esme saw herself making a choice, standing alone, letting Emmett walk away so she could live safely. She remembered the pain. She remembered the promise. "I chose safety," she whispered. "Not because I didn't love you, but because I loved you too much." Emmett's eyes softened. "And I left so you could live free." The memory began to fade, pulling her back. But before it ended, Emmett said one thing that stayed with her. "This time the choice will be yours again." And then Esme opened her eyes, back in the library. The man in the dark coat was gone, but Emmett was still there. And that changed everything. Episode 6. The Rule That Was Never Written. The library was silent, but nothing felt calm. Esme stood very still, her heart full of memories that no longer hurt. They burned. Not painfully, but brightly, like truth. "You stayed," she said to Emmett. "I couldn't leave again," he replied. "Not without knowing what you would choose." Esme looked at the door. "They'll come back." "Yes." "And if they do?" she asked. Emmett took a slow breath. "If they do, they'll erase me from your life completely." Esme's chest tightened. "Forever?" "Yes." She walked to the window. Outside, the world looked ordinary. People passed. Time moved forward, unaware of the moment standing still inside her. "They call it protection," she said, "but it feels like fear." Emmett nodded. "There is a rule they never wrote down." Esme turned to him. "What rule?" "That love chosen freely is stronger than love controlled." Silence filled the space between them. Not empty. Full. Esme made her decision without saying it out loud. She reached for the notebook and closed it. "I won't run," she said calmly, "and I won't forget." Emmett's voice was barely a whisper. "Then they will come tonight." The lights dimmed, and somewhere outside, footsteps stopped at the door. Episode 7, When Love Is Seen. The knock on the door was slow. Not loud, not angry, certain. Esme felt it in her chest before she heard it again. Emmett stepped closer to her, not to hide her, to stand with her, side by side. The door opened. 3 figures entered the library. Calm faces. Cold eyes. They looked not like enemies, but like judges. "You were warned," the first said to Emmett. "You returned." "I did," Emmett answered, "because she chose to remember." The second figure turned to Esme. You were given peace. Esme met their gaze. Her voice was steady. Peace without truth is not peace. A pause followed. Heavy, dangerous. You understand the cost? The third asked. Esme nodded. One of us will be erased. Emmett turned sharply. No. She looked at him then, truly looked. All the years, all the waiting, all the silent protection. You already gave up everything once, she said softly. This time, let me. Before Emmett could speak, Esme stepped forward. I choose to stay, she said, in this world, with my memories, without him. The room seemed to breathe in. Emmett's eyes widened. Esme! But the figures raised their hands. Light filled the space. And the last thing Emmett saw was Esme standing strong, not broken, not afraid, watching him disappear. Episode 8. The Space He Left Behind. Morning light touched the library floor. Esme sat alone at her desk, hands folded, breathing slowly. The world felt quieter, not empty, but changed, as if a song had ended, yet its echo remained. People spoke to her. She answered. Life continued. But some things were different. She noticed places that felt warmer for no reason. She sometimes turned, expecting someone to be there. Her heart knew a shape it could no longer name. Weeks passed. One evening, as she closed the library, Esme found something on her desk. A notebook. Not the old one. This one was new. Inside, the pages were blank, except the last. A single sentence was written there, in a handwriting her soul recognized. Love chosen freely is never erased. I am where you are brave. Esme's breath caught. Outside, the wind moved softly, like a familiar presence passing by, not staying, not leaving. She placed her hand over her heart. Somewhere beyond rules and watchers, Emmett was still keeping his promise. And somewhere deep inside her, Esme smiled, because this was not the end. It was the beginning of something unseen. Episode 9, Where He Always Was. The last episode. Years passed quietly. Esme grew older, wiser, steadier. She lived a full life, helping others, listening more than speaking, choosing courage in small, daily ways. People often said there was something unusual about her calm, as if she was never truly alone. Sometimes, when decisions felt heavy, Esme would pause and ask herself one simple question. What would love choose here? And the answer always came. On one ordinary evening, Esme walked through the city as the sun set low. The air felt familiar, warm, almost welcoming. She stopped near an old stone wall and placed her hand against it. For a moment, the world grew very still. Then she felt it. Not a voice, not a memory, but a presence. Steady, protective, close. I kept my promise, she whispered. The wind moved gently like a reply. Esme smiled, not with sadness, but with peace. She finally understood. Emmett was never taken from her. He was in every brave choice she made, in every truth she protected, in every moment she chose love without fear. Some love does not stay beside you. It stands within you. And as Esme continued walking forward, her steps were light, because she was never walking alone. This is the end of the story level B2. For more interesting stories, welcome to the English Listening Stories channel.